Let me be honest with you right from the start. What I am about to tell you is something that most people who take vitamins every single day have never even considered. In fact, if you walk into any pharmacy in America right now, you will see it sitting on the shelf, right there in plain sight, marketed as a daily essential, recommended by countless wellness influencers, and stocked in millions of American homes. Millions of people are taking it every morning with their breakfast, feeling completely confident that they are doing the right thing for their body. And the truth is, for many people, it probably is fine. But here is what almost nobody is talking about. For a surprisingly large group of people, taking this vitamin daily, especially in the doses that most popular supplements contain, is quietly and slowly doing something damaging to one of the most vital organs in the human body. And that organ is your liver. A 2023 study published in a major hepatology journal found that one specific vitamin was responsible for a significant number of non-alcoholic drug-induced liver injury cases reported in the United States. And the cases were not from people who were reckless or irresponsible. These were ordinary people, just like you and me, who were simply trying to be healthy. So if you are currently taking a daily vitamin supplement, and statistically there is a very good chance that you are, you need to stay with me for this entire video, because what comes next could genuinely change how you approach your health. So what vitamin are we talking about? We are talking about vitamin E. Now before you immediately say, wait, vitamin E is supposed to be good for me, I want you to hold that thought, because that is exactly the kind of reaction that has kept this problem quietly growing in the background for years. The idea that vitamin E is universally beneficial is one of the most persistent health myths in modern wellness culture. And the reason it became so widespread makes a lot of sense on the surface. Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant. It protects your cells from oxidative stress. It plays a role in immune function, skin health, and eye health. You will find it naturally in foods like almonds, sunflower seeds, avocados, and spinach. When you eat it through whole foods, your body handles it beautifully. But here is where the story takes a very important turn. And this is the part that most supplement companies are not putting front and center on their labels. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble vitamin. And if you do not know what that means in practical terms, here is the simplest way to think about it. Water-soluble vitamins, like vitamin C or most B vitamins, are processed by your body, and whatever excess you do not need gets flushed out through your urine. Your body is very efficient at getting rid of the excess. But fat-soluble vitamins do not work that way. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are stored in your body's fat tissues and in your liver. This means that when you take vitamin E as a supplement, day after day, week after week, the excess does not simply disappear. It accumulates, and your liver bears the brunt of that accumulation. Now here is what makes this situation so easy to miss. Unlike some health problems that announce themselves loudly, vitamin E toxicity in its early stages is almost completely silent. There are no dramatic symptoms. You do not suddenly feel sick in a way that would make you think something is seriously wrong. In fact, many people feel just fine for months or even years while this process is happening in the background. That is what makes it so concerning from a clinical standpoint. By the time symptoms do start to appear in more serious cases, things like unusual fatigue, nausea, digestive discomfort, or in rare but documented cases, signs of liver stress, the damage has often been accumulating for a long time. This is not a vitamin that gives you a warning sign the way a sunburn immediately tells you that you stayed out in the sun too long. It is quiet, it is slow, and it is easy to confuse with other things going on in your life. Now let us talk about dose, because this is where things get very specific and very important. The recommended dietary allowance, which is the amount your body actually needs to function well, for vitamin E in adults is 15 milligrams per day. That is roughly 22 IU, which stands for international units. That is the amount. Go ahead and look at whatever vitamin E supplement you might have in your cabinet right now or the last one you bought. What does it say on the label? Because here is what I find consistently alarming when I look at what is sitting on store shelves across America. The vast majority of popular vitamin E supplements are sold in doses of 400 IU, 800 IU, or even 1000 IU. That is not just a little over the recommended amount. At 400 IU, you are already taking roughly 18 times the daily amount your body actually needs. At 1000 IU, you are taking nearly 45 times the recommended daily amount. And yet these products are not sitting in the back of specialty stores. They are right there on the main aisle, with packaging that says things like supports heart health, powerful antioxidant, and daily immune support. The tolerable upper intake level, which is the maximum amount that health authorities consider safe for daily use in adults, is set at 1,000 milligrams per day, which is approximately 1,500 IU. But here is what that number does not tell you. The tolerable upper intake level is a threshold that represents the point at which risk of harm becomes clearly documented. It does not mean everything below that level is completely without risk for everyone. Individual factors like genetics, liver health, other medications you take, and whether you are also getting vitamin E from your food all play a role in how your body handles it. And this is a critical point that most supplement labels completely ignore. There is also something called the ATBC trial and the HOPE trial, two very large-scale studies that were actually designed to test whether high-dose vitamin E supplementation would help protect against heart disease and cancer. The results were not just disappointing, they were genuinely alarming to the researchers involved. In some groups, particularly those taking high doses over a long period, the outcomes were worse than in groups taking a placebo. These were not small studies. These were major, well-controlled research efforts involving tens of thousands of participants. And yet somehow, the broader public conversation never really caught up to those findings. The marketing around vitamin E supplements continued, the products kept selling, and people kept buying them in good faith. But now let us connect this back to the liver specifically, because I want to make sure you understand exactly what is happening inside your body when vitamin E accumulates over time. Your liver is responsible for processing fat-soluble compounds. Think of your liver as the primary filter and metabolic processing center for everything fat-soluble that enters your bloodstream. When you regularly introduce high amounts of a fat-soluble compound like synthetic vitamin E, your liver has to work harder to manage it. Over time, research has shown that excessive vitamin E can interfere with certain liver enzymes. It can contribute to a condition that doctors call elevated liver enzymes, which is one of the early signs that the liver is under stress. In more significant cases of long-term high-dose supplementation, there have been documented instances of what is classified as hepatotoxicity, which is a medical term that simply means liver damage caused by a chemical or substance. And here is something that very few people know. The form of vitamin E in most supplements is not actually the same as the vitamin E found in food. Natural vitamin E found in foods like almonds and avocados is primarily in a form called D-alpha tocopherol. Most synthetic supplements use a form called DL-alpha tocopherol. The DL prefix means it is a synthetic version, and studies have shown that the synthetic form is absorbed differently, processed differently, and retained in the body differently than the natural form. This distinction is rarely made clear on supplement labels, and it has real implications for how your liver handles what you are putting into your body. You might think you are getting the same thing you would get from eating a handful of almonds, but at the molecular level, your body treats these two things quite differently. Now I want to take a moment here to talk about who is most at risk, because this is not equally relevant for every single person watching. If you take a low-dose vitamin E supplement, perhaps something in the range of 15 to 30 IU, and you are in otherwise good health with no pre-existing liver conditions, the risk we are discussing is going to be minimal for you. Food-based vitamin E intake is considered very safe because the body naturally regulates how much it absorbs from food. The concern rises significantly when we are talking about high-dose supplementation over long periods, especially in people who may already have some degree of liver stress that they are not even aware of. People with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is now estimated to affect roughly 1 in 4 adults in the United States, are at considerably higher risk of experiencing negative effects from high-dose vitamin E supplementation. The reason for that is that their livers are already under metabolic pressure, and adding a large daily load of a fat-soluble vitamin makes that situation worse, not better. Interestingly, there have been clinical contexts where vitamin E has actually been prescribed by physicians at specific doses specifically for certain liver conditions. But that is a medically supervised, condition-specific situation that is very different from the general population casually taking 400 to 1,000 IU bottles bought off the shelf. The distinction matters enormously. A doctor prescribing a specific therapeutic dose for a specific condition is an entirely different context from someone deciding on their own to take a high-dose supplement because the packaging says it is good for your health. Another group that deserves specific attention is people who are on blood-thinning medications like warfarin or even daily aspirin. Vitamin E at high doses has anticoagulant properties, meaning it can thin the blood. For someone not on any other medications, this effect is generally not dangerous at moderate levels. But for someone already taking a blood thinner, even moderate doses of supplemental vitamin E can amplify the effect of that medication in ways that could become medically significant. Increased bleeding risk, slower clotting, and interactions with other drugs are all real considerations that a surprising number of people never discuss with their doctor simply because they do not think of vitamins as something that requires medical oversight. And that brings me to one of the most important patterns I see time and time again in the context of supplement use in America. There is a deeply ingrained cultural belief that if something is natural or sold as a vitamin, it must be safe. But the history of medicine tells a very different story. Almost every substance that exists, including water, becomes harmful at a certain dose. The question with any supplement is never simply, is this good for you in general? It is how much, in what form, for how long, and for which specific individual. Those are the questions that matter. And they are the questions that most supplement marketing completely sidesteps. So what should you actually do with this information? The first thing I would encourage you to do is look at whatever vitamin E supplement you are currently taking and check the dose on the label. If it is above 100 IU per day and you have been taking it for a long time, it is worth having a conversation with your doctor and possibly getting a simple liver enzyme panel done as part of your next blood work. Liver enzyme tests are inexpensive, routine, and can give you very valuable information about how your liver is doing. If your enzymes come back elevated and you are on a high-dose vitamin E supplement, that connection is worth discussing with your physician. Second, if you genuinely want the benefits of vitamin E, and there are real benefits to this nutrient, consider getting it through food rather than through a high-dose supplement. A small handful of almonds, a tablespoon of sunflower seeds, half an avocado, or a serving of spinach will give you a meaningful amount of vitamin E in a natural form that your body is well equipped to handle without putting excess strain on your liver. Third, if you do want to continue taking a vitamin E supplement, look for one that provides a dose closer to the actual daily requirement, something in the range of 15 to 22 milligrams or 22 IU, rather than the megadose products that dominate most store shelves. And if possible, look for the D-alpha tocopherol form, which is the natural form, rather than the DL-alpha tocopherol synthetic form. There is also a broader lesson embedded in this story that I think is worth sitting with for a moment. We live in a culture that has been extremely successful at marketing the idea of supplementation as a default path to health. And for certain populations with specific deficiencies, people with documented vitamin D deficiency, people with B12 deficiency due to dietary restrictions, people with iron deficiency anemia, targeted supplementation under medical guidance is genuinely valuable and potentially life-changing. But the mass-market approach of selling high-dose fat-soluble vitamins to the general public as a daily wellness habit, without clear communication about the risks of accumulation and liver stress, is something that deserves much more scrutiny than it currently receives. The supplement industry in the United States is largely unregulated compared to pharmaceuticals. Products can make broad health claims without the same level of evidence required of prescription drugs. And the result is that millions of Americans are spending significant money on products that may be doing very little good and, in some cases, may be doing quiet harm over time. I also want to acknowledge something because I think it is important to be balanced here. The science on vitamin E and liver health is not black and white. There are researchers who argue that the concern is overstated for healthy individuals taking standard supplemental doses. There are others who believe the evidence for liver risk is compelling enough to warrant much stronger public health messaging. What is not debated is the basic biochemistry. Vitamin E is fat-soluble. It accumulates in the liver. Synthetic high-dose forms are processed differently than food-based natural forms, and certain populations face elevated risk. Those are the facts as they currently stand, and they are worth knowing regardless of where you come down on the broader debate. What I want you to walk away from this video with is not fear. I do not want you to feel anxious or panicked. What I want you to feel is informed. Because when you are informed, you make better decisions. You ask better questions at your next doctor's appointment. You look at supplement labels with a more critical eye. You understand the difference between getting a nutrient from whole food versus getting it from a synthetic high-dose capsule. That shift in awareness is genuinely powerful, and it costs you nothing. Now I want to hear from you, because this is the kind of topic where personal experience really matters. Have you been taking a vitamin E supplement regularly? What dose are you on? Did you ever think to check whether it might be affecting your liver over time? Or maybe you had a conversation with your doctor about this and got some surprising results from your blood work. I read every comment on this channel, and I find these conversations incredibly valuable, not just for me, but because other people watching this video months from now will read your experience, and it might be exactly the thing that prompts them to have an important conversation with their own doctor. So please drop a comment below and share what you were thinking. And if you found this video genuinely useful, please share it with someone in your life who takes supplements regularly, a parent, a sibling, a friend. It does not cost anything to share, but it might make a real difference in how they think about their daily habits. Your liver works every single day to keep you healthy, quietly, and without complaint. It deserves the same attention and care from you. Take care of it well.